So, since this is a positive psychology class and a happiness and positive psychology class, I really want to, okay, these are all studies and all things that we know. And sometimes we feel a little bit like out of control in our relationships because we can't control the other person, right? We only have our own behaviors that we can control. And so it sometimes feels like maybe you just luck out and get into a relationship that has positivity in it and lacks the four horsemen of the apocalypse and stuff. But I really want to underscore that you can build closeness and you can build intimacy, you know, from your own side with a person who you value and as a friend or as a romantic partner. And it's worth your while because a lot of times it builds and like you being the impetus can help to grow in closeness that you weren't even expecting. So first thing I would mention is carve out time to talk to whoever it is that you're wanting to be intimate with. It's impossible to be intimate if you don't have time to share your ideas, share your goals, share your hopes, maybe your fears. Talk about things that are important to you, right? Maybe if you know something important happened to your friend or your romantic partner, at work or at school today, and they told you when they, the last time you spoke, they said, well, on Thursday, I'm going to have a meeting with whatever, and, I'm kind of nervous about it. And you were like buoying their spirits and telling them, good luck. I know it's going to go great. Carve out time to check in on how did it go? Tell me about it, right? Because that shows your interest and allows them to share their reactions and how it happened. And this is how you build closeness, right? When there is the inevitable conflict in a relationship of any sort, you have to handle it constructively. It's really important to avoid signs of contempt, right? It's really important not to bog down in criticizing every little thing because that's going to build even more conflict. So dealing with things, pick your battles is a really important piece of advice. When you're feeling admiration for another person, express it to them. Let them know that you think that's awesome, or that you really admire that they do something. Tell them I was really impressed by how you handled that conversation with your mom. I know that was a difficult one. Or, I really appreciate how you are always on time. I love that about you. Just like little things. I really love it that I can always rely on you. This is such an important relationship. Like just these little things. We all, I had a professor once who said we all thrive on pellets. And I'm like, that's a little vivid because he meant like food pellets in a positive reinforcement schedule of rats or something. But he's right. We all need and I think he was right to use the word pellets because it's not even that big or important to get a pellet. Who wants a pellet of food? A little compressed piece of alfalfa. But that's the point, is like just a little bit buoys our spirits. Just a little bit makes us want to be kinder to the person who shared that with us. And so express those things that you admire. It doesn't have to be big things. Show affection. It can be verbally, wow, I really love you, or I'm so glad we're friends. It could be hugs. It could be hand holding. It could be a little rub on the shoulder when you know they're feeling anxious. Maybe you're not that close for hugs, but you could give them a little rub on the shoulder. Show them a little bit of like, I'm here for you. Bodily contact is an important thing. It doesn't have to be intimate, but just a little bit of affection. Create shared meaning. One of the things that is the best about like friends or long-term relationships is you have like inside jokes. You have, maybe you saw the same movie together and you came out, reciting certain lines from that movie. And now it becomes like a punchline, or it becomes the thing that you say together whenever something happens in real life or whatever. And like, that's the kind of thing that really bonds people together and makes them feel like they belong. I know when my daughter got married, she was dating probably is when this really became a clear thing, is that her now husband was sort of like, didn't know any of the references that we would make. And a lot of our references came off of TV. Like we had a lot of Simpsons lines and just dumb stuff that we had seen together. And then we would all just, a lot of Seinfeld, little things that we would utter, and then we'd all laugh because we knew what it meant. And he had been sort of deprived of television growing up. And so he didn't know what we were talking about at all. And so one of the things that they've done since they've gotten married is like watch some of the episodes so that now he knows what the lines are. And now he's feeling like he's more part of the group because at the minimum, even if he doesn't know the line, he knows it came from a movie or a TV show, and he knows that we're not just cleverly making up these little quips, but we're just repeating something we heard. And so he feels like he's part of the meaning now. And it's amazing how much closer we all feel when we all have like this shared thing. It's dumb, but it's bonding, right? That we all have this shared thing. Okay, this phrase, model Michelangelo. I pulled this out of a study. I put it at the bottom for you. Model. So what we're talking about here is like the reflection from our relationship partner oftentimes helps us to modify ourselves so as to more closely match the idealized version that our partner is holding for us. They like help us to want to be as good as what they seem to think we are, right? So it's something that was first observed in like happy long-term married couples. I know my grandparents who were married a really long time. I want to say, I'd say 55, 58 years or something before grandma died. And my grandpa talked about her like she was perfect. Always had compliments, and he didn't necessarily say it to her, but he said it about her, and she could like hear in the other room, you know what I mean? And so that kind of feedback from your very long-term partner who has seen you in good, bad, and different situations has got to be motivating, right? To help you to become your best self. Because you're like, well, if he, even though he's seen me do this, that, and the other thing, still thinks that, I really need to rise to this occasion and try and be the best self I can be. So that's a good piece of advice, right? Your partner helps to sculpt you into the best self that you can be. When you meet your kids, you realize that they deserve great parents. And then you have your marching orders, and you have to try to become the person that they deserve. That comes from Ryan Gosling, an actor. It's not a big famous psychologist or even Michelangelo. This comes from Ryan Gosling, the actor. But he's so right. A lot of times as, parents, we try to rise up and be the best selves we can be because we know that these little humans are depending on us. The same thing can happen in romantic relationships. The same things can happen in friendships where we can help each other to become our best selves. Avoid the four horses of the apocalypse, right? Try not to show contempt or endless criticism for your partner. Try not to get defensive. That's something that people have to work on though, because there's always a little bit of like, especially new relationships where you're not sure whether this person might actually be attacking you, your character, your fundamental way that you are. Are they picking on you? I mean, we don't know each other that well. Maybe they are literally picking on me. And so there can be a time early, especially in relationships, where you're trying to figure it out. And so maybe you do feel defensive. I know when we were newlyweds, my beloved felt defensive a lot. He felt like everything I said, he had to sort of defend himself against it. And it took a lot of, we're on the same team. Like we have the same goals. We're trying to get where we're trying to go. And you can't look at every single thing I say as an attack on yourself and your psyche and all the things. But he had that tendency towards defensiveness. I feel like being the eighth of 8 children might have helped him to feel like he's being picked on. But I was not picking on him. I was just trying to, get us into alignment for what we stated we wanted kind of thing. And he felt like I was criticizing him. And so I had to learn not to criticize. I had to learn to pick my battles early in the marriage. And he had to learn, assume the best in the stuff I'm saying. Don't assume I'm trying to pick on you, right? Those are ways to avoid it. You have to be active. You have to make a choice not to bog down into those styles of discourse. Keep your blood sugar up. This might sound dumb, but hangry is a real thing where, you get hungry and you do get a little bit irrational. You do get more sensitive. You do get more emotional. And so keeping your blood sugar up, like don't have a big conversation when, you are exhausted and hungry and maybe even thirsty. And like, this is not the time to start delving into personal habits that we don't like or other kinds of things. Like, that is not the time. Make sure that you're feeling good before you engage in a conversation. If you're not feeling good, say, you know what, this might be a great time for us to take a little break and have a snack and see how we're feeling about it. Maybe 20 minutes after consuming the snack, when our blood sugar maybe is returned to its normal, maybe we're just cranky. And that's a real thing. So that's my last little piece of advice on building closeness. Share a little meal together, a little snack. All right, this week's positivity exercise, or this chapter's positivity exercise, I'm going to challenge you to get outside. And it would be awesome if every single day you can say to yourself, this is my homework, I have to do it. I'm giving you a bunch of ideas. I know a lot of people will be like, I'm not doing it, or I already do it, or whatever. But if you do it with the intention of like fulfilling this assignment, it's a different experience than if you just sort of are going through what might be your everyday routine. So every day, take your cell phone with you when you go outside and snap a picture of something in nature. Maybe you'd luck out and find a bird sitting on some kind of twisted piece of blue plastic. Maybe you can't go outside, but you can take a picture of something outside. Look for the nature in what might not be the most natural setting. That's a really positive experience, to see that there is nature thriving even in, or nature struggling to thrive, right? Maybe that weed in the crack of the sidewalk or something. And when you really look at it, you say, wow, it's perfectly formed. It's beautiful. So really look for the nature, right? And then record the emotion that goes along with that picture that you've taken. Some of you might choose to post it on social media. Those can be very inspiring photographs. I'm very lucky. There's somebody who lives in my little area of the West Plains, and he gets up and takes pictures of nature every morning and posts them on social media. And it's such a nice way to start my morning when I get up much later than he does, apparently, and I get to see what he encountered on his little nature walk. And sometimes it's big animals, sometimes it's small animals, sometimes it's, wildflowers, it's all sorts of different things. And, I know just looking at his pictures spark things in me, let alone what do you think it does for him to get up in the morning and encounter these things and document them for everybody else. So record those emotions so that you can kind of reflect on them. And if you do this exercise, make sure that you hold on to it, because over the course of the quarter, ultimately you're going to try and put together a portfolio and kind of reflect on which of these exercises were helpful to you or beneficial for you, and that maybe you'll incorporate into your lifestyle. I mean, that'd be awesome if the guy who puts it on social media in my area actually is a former Eastern student who's taken the positivity class, and he's doing it because he started it 10 years ago. I don't think it is. I don't think that's the case, but wouldn't that be awesome? That makes me really happy to think that it could be, 10 years later, you might be still doing some of these exercises. So that's my goal for you. So try and do it. And, if you don't get every single day of the week, don't beat yourself up about it. But if you can get, more days than not, if we can define anxiety as more days than not you're feeling this negative thing, why can't we say that positivity is more days than not you're doing this positive thing? So I'm going to say, don't hold yourself to too stern of a goal, but hopefully you'll try this. All right. Well, that concludes love. So I will see you in the next topic.